All right, Locker Room Philosophers fans, we are here with another Lessons from the Mat episode today. We got Mike D here in the virtual studio. Mike, how you doing today?
I am fantastic. How are you, Carlos?
Doing all right. So what have the mats been teaching you this week?
So the mats have been the last couple training sessions has been a lesson of stop pressing A, which means for me, I caught myself kind of trying to implement something like a move or submission or whatnot, and then when I get there to that position, I keep, like I say, stop pressing A. It's like when you're playing a video game and you just kind of keep hitting the same button, thinking that a different result's gonna happen. So for
Yeah.
me, it was like I'd get to this position, and if it's not working out, I would kind of stubbornly stick to it. Not to say like, okay, it's good to work it, try to maintain the control if it's there, but there's like that thing of where, all right, at some point it might not be there, or there might be a transition to something else, right? A different move, a different submission, a different control spot. So it's like trying to say, okay, well, stop and think for this brief second here and see if there's something else. So for me, it was like, okay, when I get to that sticking point, try to catch myself so that I'm aware of like, okay, this isn't working. Let's start to like let's start to close some loops here.
Hmm.
So that's where I've been trying to work. And I gave you the example offline too. It's like, okay, like from mount and then working my way up to like a high mount, and then okay, trying to go through to the S mounted position. And then if that's not, I'm not really not good at all at the S mount yet. Not good at all yet at the S mount position. So like let's say I'm getting up there and like going to work on getting better, right? And then if it's not there, it's like what Brandon used to teach too. There's options, right? So if it's not there and we can recognize the moment that okay, we're losing control or the position is no longer advantageous, like we can either kind of bail on it and maintain a side control, or we can go like okay, S mount to the arm bar, and then the same thing with the arm bar. Like my example was the arm bar. If it's not there at some point, I'm fighting for the arm bar, fighting for control, trying to keep them on the mat, and then maybe at some point I'm losing, my leg positioning or something, and they're starting to get off the mat. So then there's you can transition to the triangle.
Hmm.
So for me, it was like kind of closing the gaps and seeing those progressions instead of like just focusing on that on getting that thing, and then
So by
bailing.
so by getting that thing, are you saying just continually trying for that certain submission, and then now you are transitioning to getting better position, so you're emphasizing position over submission? Is that a good summary of what you're saying?
Position over submission, and then yes, and then if that position means it's a different position now, yes. So it's like
Yeah.
okay, like if that submission, whether it's the S mount working there, and then whatever the submissions from there would be, and then the arm bar, it's like okay, that arm bar, that position might not be strong anymore. It might be losing that. So that's
Hmm.
where it'd be going to a new position, which would be like a triangle, and then working on that submission from there. So yeah, exactly.
How would you translate that lesson into life? Just general off the mat life purposes.
So general off the mat life purposes, I think. Well, sometimes when we're trying to okay, let's say it's like with problem solving. If we're trying to solve a problem, um, I always like to say like it's like that saying when you're trying to solve a problem. I forgot exactly how it goes, but you can't like solve it from the same thinking, the same mindset as you got yourself that the problem occurred in too.
Hmm.
So it's like if I'm trying to solve a problem and I'm trying to do it by with a specific thing that's good that I think is going to give me the solution to the problem. If it's not working, then take a step back and kind of come at the problem with a different viewpoint or different kind of a thought process to look at it from a different standpoint, and then the some of the answers or some of that new kind of new path of solving that problem might show itself. So so for me, it's like same thing. It's just doing, people get caught doing the same thing over and over and over and expecting different results, insanity, kind of thing. So it's
Hmm.
like making sure in life that I'm not doing the same thing. If I'm in a situation, but I've been doing the same thing that got me in the situation, instead of complaining about the situation, it's like, well, what are my actions telling me about why I'm in this situation? So
Yeah.
like, along those lines.
Yeah, for sure. And so for me, mine would be just what I've been focusing on. Mainly, this has to do, at least for my quote unquote game, this has to do with leg attacks and defending leg entanglements, but just addressing the problem immediately and not letting it fester, which in this case means getting deeper into leg entanglement or somebody, we start out in 50-50 and then well, actually, how this has mainly been happening is people will put me in like 411 or something from some, like they're standing passing my guard or whatever. We have some scramble and then they put me in some 411 type situation or inverting under me and knock me over, doing something like that. So just immediately when you notice a threat, just address it and don't just like accept getting swept and then accept the attack essentially. So address the attack that you know is going to come before, like don't let them get into the position where they can attack you, kind of going along with your thing. Don't let them get in the position where they can attack you. Just address it before they can secure the position.
Mhm.
So how that relates to life is obviously if you notice a threat or something's going wrong, uh, you know your wife's being particularly cranky, then it's like, okay, something's going on. Let's address this before I dig myself in some deeper hole. Obviously, no man is great at doing that, but um, it's just a matter of addressing the issues in your life or addressing the threats and dealing with them then and there versus letting the problem grow and then you get deeper into a submission for jujitsu or you get deeper into an issue uh, in whatever aspect of your life
Mhm.
that's happening in. So I would say that that's my lesson from the mat for this week, and then how it relates to general life lessons and purposes.
Yeah, it's important to attack those issues, challenges, problems right away.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Um, I don't know that. See, the leg locking thing though. I don't know that things really fester. I think they go from like okay to like pretty bad quick. So I don't know. Like I'm trying, like you're gonna. I'm putting in my head. I was like maybe I should let things fester more. But then I'm like I
No,
don't know. Yeah, I don't know. That's
it's how
kind of
your leg gets
that's how
messed
things
up. But
that's how things get popped.
again, I'm thinking
I know what you're saying though.
festering in the sense of
Getting to
like they're
that
putting you
position.
in, yeah, they're putting
Yeah,
you in 411, and then I mean in like
allowing your legs to
411
be
and
worked and
yeah,
all that.
and
Yeah,
411 and like the Texas Cloverleaf situation, like I can't get out of that
that
at
thing's
all. Like
badass though.
I'm
That's a
just
nice one.
stuck. Yeah,
Yeah,
but I'm just stuck. So it's like let me like when the person's about to start sitting back into it, like I see them collecting the far side leg, like all right, let me do something about this before I get in this position that I know that I can't figure out how to get out of.
like accepting your fate. Just fucking
Yeah.
keep working. Yeah.
Or even, for example, like we were drilling today with the head and arm stuff, how I tend to just try to get enough space where I can give up my back. And then right when the person transitions to taking the back, I start to pin the foot and then hop over. It's like, how about I just don't let them get my arm over my head so that now I don't need to deal with this whole situation? Like,
Hmm.
address their cross face before they can secure it and then start to either get to octopus guard or do whatever, uh, and not just accept this situation where I'm in a head and arm or at best I'm escaping from a back attack, which is also not good, obviously. So again, just addressing the problems before they become a problem, and then obviously starting to switch to offense as quickly as you can instead of just sitting there getting your butt kicked on defense.
I That's why I like the style. I like the mix now. I like the like how Aaron like like working from so we worked from like slowly built us up from getting there from like a position of like we're framing type of thing, building us up to getting the
Mm-hmm.
arm up, and then once we worked those positional drills, then it's like starting off with our arm extended, right? Had an
Yeah,
arm already in, and then like working from that position of inferior position when you're pretty much already at a point of where the submission is like very close. It's I like that though. I like both. Like I like the fact that I really love how it was today, which I mean that's kind of how he always does it. How it's like built up that way
mm-hmm.
though. Especially with like these like leg entanglements might be a little different because like it's not as like cut and dry with certain
Yeah,
things to me at least, right? Um, but yeah, with this one, I really liked working that from that position because you kind of see like what you're willing to give up to get like whether like you said you can give up your back to kind of gain um, maybe escape the submission from the head and arm, and you're giving up your back, and then you're like, okay, I'll work on my back escape, and then
yeah.
which is another problem. But you might be like, I feel like I'd rather, even though lately I feel like my back defense is, I mean, like I feel like it's been pretty crappy. But sometimes like you might have more like I'd rather fight the back take
Mm-hmm.
than sit there with a head and arm for a long
Oh,
time. Like that's
100%.
so I get like kind of going to your back and seeing if that would be a better option. Even if you, because sometimes it is hard to not give up that arm. But that's why I try to, just
I
framing
hate
and
the positions where I can't move, and the head and arm I like can't move when somebody has me in it.
yeah,
Where versus the back, I feel like I can squirm around a little bit
yeah.
until you're like real deep into it. But all right, we probably lost some people here with how technical
Only
jujitsu.
non-jujitsu people.
Yeah, but let's hear your thoughts about our last episode with Tyler Bedlon from the Alex Saints Foundation. Let's hear your thoughts
Mm,
on that interview.
that's great because that's going to be one of the philosophy readings today. Yeah, so it's powerful. I love what they're doing. Alex's Saints Foundation and bringing awareness to with addiction, with drug addiction, narcotics, substance abuse. There's it's so sad. It's something that affects so many people. Like we were talking about, doesn't matter. I mean, the guy that you mentioned in the last podcast, what did you say, 9 years old, 8, 9 years old, kind
Yeah,
of
yeah,
that, getting in their lives um, at that age. People growing up around it, how it affects children developing, and then kind of like dictating at least kind of what their path looks like, and then as they grow, they get to navigate that path themselves. But it's like so you just see whether from a young age directly or a young age indirectly how it can affect people. And then it doesn't matter. You can also be 50, 60 or older, whatever, still dealing with the same kind of, pull at some
hmm
kind of addiction. And there's a lot of reasons for it. Like, I have my issue with, and it's not that I'm even anti pharmaceutical medicines because I think antibiotics was one of the greatest things ever brought to man and saving
hmm
us. I mean, it helps me with these potential bacterial infections from contact with other human beings sometimes. But so like it's just
Allegedly.
allegedly it's just these things like you just see where things I mean, at least I see. If you really look at things, anybody who pays attention really goes back just to follow it. You just see where there's a really like a system break in things. So it's like whether it was on the black market or whether it started off from a prescription and then kind of evolved into something worse, which happens a lot. right? It's
Mhm.
always from like a surgery or something, or some kind of chronic condition, pain,
Yeah.
or something in the streets that are laced with things. So, you know, the thing is with all that, it's a huge problem. And what Tyler was saying too, which is so true, is like, yeah, man, like people will say like, hey, so and so, which is it's tragic, its own issue, but like cancer, like people, whether they're dealing with cancer or they're a cancer survivor, you'll speak about the issue, about, we need to address this and fight against cancer, and fixing cancer, and all this stuff, and treating it. And then we also celebrate all the recovery of cancer and all this stuff. But the stigma around narcotics and addiction problems, um, is really sad, because it really keeps people, you know, quieter than they should be, because of how.
Mhm.
And then it's weird too, because obviously some people are trying to do it, and kind of live like a somewhat normal life while doing it too, so they can't be all, they don't even know that they have a problem, right? So for me, it was a very powerful episode. It's like everybody knows somebody who's dealt with addiction issues, and hopefully overcame them. And then you just see how it plays out. And I know people who didn't overcome them and tragically have passed away. And that's at a young age too, younger than. So it's just these things like, man, this stuff. Uh, it could be something that wasn't intentional and it gets you. It could be something that it's just you went off the rails and it got you, and it just how it affects things. And it's really sad. So I like that he's trying to work with people, bring more awareness around it, but then also work in helping people. Like, hey, when they're ready, like we have the financial resources, because usually people that are dealing with that, they financially they might not be in the best spot to kind of pay for
Mhm.
those services and everything for the recovery. So it's nice that they're kind of putting that together to offer, especially young adults, young kids, so they have a chance to hopefully kick it and get out of that, and can be their own success story.
Yeah, for sure. I thought that the part of their operation they do with the funeral payments
Yeah.
was pretty interesting. Um, just I'd never even thought of that. Like you obviously think of the people doing it, the person that overdoses and trying to help those that are struggling, but then after somebody does pass away, the family's left to clean that up. And a lot of times it's a younger person, so their parents or somebody in their life that's older is still alive, but maybe they're not in the financial position to be able to give them a proper burial and whatnot. So I
Hmm.
thought that service that they offer was pretty interesting. I thought it was cool too, just how the idea kind of came out of nothing. He just, like he said, was bored at some point and thought that he should carry on his friend's legacy. And I think they're doing a good thing by making that happen. So
I think
yeah, I
I
thought it was
think
a pretty
there's a
interesting interview.
I think there I mean, I think that idea came from somewhere, and he just was like you said, he was so bored. Maybe that it was like around COVID, right, when he did it, like around
Yeah.
2020. So it's like bored, but then also, like his life slowed down enough, or things happened enough to put him in that position where he's able to, like you said, think, like he had the thought, but like I think people in general have amazing ideas and thoughts that could be something. One of those thoughts could be something, and maybe many of them. I just think that sometimes we're either not tapped in, we don't listen, and it's just a lot of noise, too busy, or we just don't act on them, and we kind of just keep thinking, and like sometimes it sounds amazing, and then a little bit of time goes by, you either push it aside or kind of forget about it. So I think
Mhm.
that for something like that, just to kind of come to him, and like how he kind of put it, just he was bored, and he was just thinking, why not start a nonprofit, and everything. I really think there's more to it behind, like something happened for a
Well,
reason
yeah.
there. But
Well,
that's
you
a,
need
that's
to.
a good reminder of like, pay attention to your thoughts, and kind of what what pulls at your heart too. Like what's meaningful to you? Because sometimes doing stuff is just a business or a thing, which is okay to like explore, but it's the stuff that really kind of resonates deep down that maybe investigate that some,
Yeah.
start taking a little bit of action towards it.
Yeah, for sure. That makes sense to me. And
Yeah.
like you said, you kind of need to have the situation or the bandwidth where you can act on those things at that
Hmm.
time, unless, you know, there's obviously exceptions to that. You hear the stories of like Bill Gates or whatever starting his company or Microsoft in his garage, and then I think there was a similar story with the Amazon guy, Steve Jobs. So yeah, I mean, there's exceptions to it where somebody's just going to be working their full time thing and then also grind extra 10 hours a day after work to make something happen. But sometimes things line up, like with Tyler, where it was COVID time and Michigan was locked down, so he couldn't really do too much. And then his friend passed away, and the idea came to him, and
Hmm.
he had the time and energy to make it happen. So
Yeah, because how
I
many
think,
people did not necessarily just the opposite, but people like would, COVID happened, lockdown happened, and then all of a sudden it's just whatever, distracted by whatever, like
mhm,
movies, TV, electronic, fear, news, media, whatever it is that you can let that get to you too. And the same with like, there's people during the lockdowns when shit was closed, especially like gyms and just people being out and about in general. You got people who either got in amazing shape. People were saying like, "Hey, dude, COVID worked out great for me. I lost all this weight, felt great." Or people got in worse shape too. So
mhm.
it's like always it's like no matter the situation, there's always the people who start to like take action on things like even like Bill Gates. Uh, uh, he just took action on things that like he had these ideas and thoughts and things that he took action on. But
He's still
um,
taking action on
I don't.
things.
Yeah, I'm not. He's still taking action. Yeah, he is. But but that's yeah. These guys, they make it happen. At least
Yeah.
try it out and see what happens, and go from there. Kind of like the
How do you?
podcast, man.
Yeah.
We're just like we're not. It's not no crazy production. We don't have a Jamie, and we don't have.
Yeah.
We just rock and roll and just go. Like put it to action. Go get better, learn, figure things out.
How do you think 2020 and 2021 will be looked at in like 15, 20 years? How are the history books going to remember it, if there's even still history books that publish things like that? In 15, 20 years, what do you think? Let's hear Mike D's opinions.
I don't, man. I feel this is like interesting though, because I don't. Who knows? A 15-year. So I think okay. I will say there's some things that I think obviously they could be people might get upset with some things, but at the end of the day, I think at the very least, no, honestly, like I think there was an overreaction, and I'm not saying, and this is all like when you think about it too, it's not like some people just made the best decisions that they could based on the information they were consuming, bringing in, or based
Mhm.
on their situation. Like people were put in bad situations. Um, I think there was an overreaction with how it was handled. Not saying in the beginning, cool. In the beginning, I get it. In the very beginning, until you figure out what this is, a couple months, sure, I get it. And then after that, after like probably by like end of April, getting into May, I figure. I mean, I was starting just based on what I was doing and following and everything. I'm like, okay, so COVID to me, the last 2020, 2021. I think there was a gross overreaction to how it should be handled. I think that the jab was rushed out and shouldn't have been mandated and shouldn't have been forced. Um, People want to take it; they should have taken it. Cool, no problem there. But I don't think it just didn't make this. If you want to look at the science, it doesn't. It shows that it didn't make sense, and it doesn't make sense. At the time, it didn't make sense. Like in terms of immunity and just how viruses work and stuff. And then also like just the fact that how there was zero education around health, and how people like, I mean,
I think that
well,
was the craziest thing to me was that it was very obvious, even like a month in, that the people that were dying were the ones that had an average of like 2.8 comorbidities. They
yeah,
were obese and
hmm,
whatever, heart disease, all this stuff. And it was just completely ignored that being healthy helped.
yeah,
And
100%.
that
That's
that was like never pushed. I mean, you had you had beaches shut down, parks, like you people were not allowed to go to the park, which doesn't make any sense to me. Like people weren't allowed to go outside, be healthy. So for me, the history books, I guarantee you won't be saying this, but I think that the biggest, the biggest, like the lasting impression for me was how the narratives that were pushed out there were all narratives that led to certain people making money.
oh, 100%.
It doesn't
Yeah.
cost. No, nobody's making any money off of people going outside, going for a walk, going for a ruck. In your case, going. I guess Go Ruck is making money, but like just doing burpees, like 100 burpees a day keeps the COVID away. That could have been like the slogan, and there was, yeah, there was no gyms were shut down, which I don't agree with, but I can get why they were thinking that. And the response to that should have been, all right, here's like body weight workouts or whatever workouts you can do from home with minimal equipment, stuff like that. Um, Maybe partnering up with like Rogue to get kettlebells in people's hands, sandbags, whatever. And so I think for me, the lasting impression was just follow the money.
Yeah, 100%. That's how you really see how things are, man. You know, when, and again, you know, on it's not even, it's not even like pointing to, it's not painting like painting with broad brush strokes either. You know, I'm not saying every single person is like has this nefarious kind of, you know, idea and approach, and you know, like their intention is bad, but follow the money is 100% right. And you know, like you just see that, you know, it wasn't, uh, you know, it didn't stop, you know, the COVID shot itself didn't stop you from getting COVID, didn't prevent it. And it didn't, you know, there's things that what it was, and the thing is like when they're saying it, it's doing this stuff in the beginning and then it doesn't. And then, you know, fast forward down the line, you start to see the contradictions. And I don't want to like just kind of list them out, but all the contradictions and stuff, that's where it's like you just follow the money, and then you see like what people what statements they were making at the time, thinking that it's going to get those the number of people to comply up, um, and you're like, it doesn't. It just didn't make sense, man. It didn't make sense. So I think when people look back at it, they're going to say, "Hey, it's 2024. It's the perfect one of the main things in 2024 is all about personal agency, right?" So I think
Hmm.
it comes down to people, the people who I think it opened up a lot of people's eyes to the fact that they need to have more personal agency, that they need to like, hey, I need to, there are a lot of people that came out of it saying like, I need to be healthier myself. Maybe not right away. It might have taken a year or two, maybe even took them going through the process of, you know, getting fired from a job from not complying, and then realizing like, hey, you know, um, or complying, getting the shot, staying in the job, and then still saying like I need to like not just keep going along this path of like booster after booster, shot after shot. Like okay, I did the thing. Now like how else can I be healthy? So I think a lot of people, there are some definitely a lot of people that hopefully I can see just from like kind of paying attention. I see a lot of people that it did impact in a positive way, but I think it's good. They're going to look back and see how just people just easily just accepted, especially news, man. Like the news is, come on, you know, like there's three channels, and I don't care like right wing, left wing types of politics going on. I don't care. It's not even about that. It's just like there's the same when you look at it along the same like the global news initiative like agenda, which just with how it's an overall mass push to get, you know, everybody to comply. And when you see like
Well,
the
it's all about division now.
Yeah, but the narrative's the same. So that's where I'm like, okay, for me, it like tells me to like, okay, that source of news is no longer like I'm not going to really look to that source of news for my answers. So then when you start to do your own kind of digging and research, then people try to make fun of you for that, which is crazy. I was laughing, man. I mean, that was that people would try to make you feel bad for doing research too, and then using what you're finding, what you're reading, what you're checking into, line it up with doctors on both sides of the aisle if we're talking about COVID and stuff. But it's like they're trying to make you feel bad. Oh, why is this guy's doing his own research? And they'll like laugh, and it's just like, hmm, like you don't you want to be in? It made to me it
No,
was like
ignorance is
it is
bliss.
crazy. I was just like, that is the you're gonna like you're trying to make fun of me for actually trying to be more informed as a human being, right? Like especially with putting something in my body that like to me, and that was the beautiful thing about COVID for me is that was like one of the biggest things with me is just my health, right? My own body, my health, what I put into it, what I take care of, how I take care of it. Doesn't mean I'm perfect, but for me, just putting something in, especially when you're dealing with like immune system and just your own like your own body's amazing ability to heal and do amazing things without interference. Um, from synthetic things. It's just amazing. So like to me, that was always going to be okay. I'm not going to just comply right away. I need to like see what is going on here before I even think about entertain the idea of complying with something like this. Especially with
Hmm.
the death rate and all that stuff. But then I can see there's people. I mean, I know people that they're told one thing like, yeah, you got diabetes, and instead of educating them on, hey, let's like fix your lifestyle and help you with diabetes because it's, in my opinion, it's a system thing that doesn't allow for it to, and then
Yeah.
the person, patient, individual doesn't seek that out, but it's just like, okay, so just take these pills and people will like kind of just do it. And then I think I forgot the average American takes like 5 prescriptions or something like that, maybe even more, something
Sounds
around there.
right.
But it's just crazy. It's so yeah, I think people are gonna look back at it, and the thing is like 10 to 15 years from now, Carlos, I don't know, man. That might be depending on how deep we go down in the rabbit hole too. That could be some kind of crazy, initiative. Um, what's his name? Your boy
Klaus Schwab.
Klaus Schwab over there, and the 20 was it the 2030 by 2035. So we'll see. I don't know. 10 years from now, we still might be kind of in a jacked up position. Is a
We
human
probably will be.
species? I don't know.
We probably will be. Klaus Schwab and the boys are pretty. Look at this dog.
He's the best. He's like,
Klaus
he's like, get
Schwab
me
and
in
the.
on that pick.
Yeah.
Get me in on that.
Roman, you want to be on the show?
Yeah, I just don't. It's just
What?
annoying when people try to, make decisions about individuals. You know, like we're gonna make the decisions about your health and your well being on your behalf, and then like on it, like I'll look at Klaus Schwab. I'm like, you don't look healthy.
No, not at
Bill
all.
Gates doesn't look healthy. You want me to eat your fake meat? You don't look healthy at all.
Yeah,
At all.
look at the health, the ministers of health of like it's like
Yeah,
Canada,
100%.
England, here. It's all a bunch of
Even
fat
doctors,
slobs.
man. Like
I love when doctors are fat.
yeah, yeah. And then it's just like, okay, so then it's like, okay, you want me to again? I think they're amazing doctor because I have doctors in the family. They're amazing people, and they really want. It's just like my beef is more with like the system that's set up that allows for the treatment too, treatment of patients and stuff. But like the whole chronic care and stuff. It's like like the doctor's overweight and the doctor's kind of selling me on, oh, you have diabetes. Not, I'm just giving an example. Like if I'm going in there and I got diabetes, I'm overweight, the doctor's going to prescribe me something. The doctor probably has the same thing though. It's like, so of
Yeah, they've
course
got to
they're
get
not going to,
commission.
I believe they do or something like that. Some kind of fee, whatever they, I mean,
I don't know.
that's why reps,
We already got canceled for this episode,
it's
so
great though. But why do you think reps like, hey, like you have these three companies that want to put out their specific drugs, so they kind of jockey for position and who's going to write the script from which company. So for sure, there's
Yeah.
some kind of, but yeah, we're canceled. It's good.
It is what it is. Well, I'm going to lean into that canceling. We were just talking earlier. I don't I don't know if you were there yet. It was at training today, but it was me. I don't remember who all was there, but I was talking about how I've never once been to the doctor that I can remember and not left thinking, man, this was a massive waste of time and money.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've never had a good experience at a medical facility.
Yeah, I mean, they don't really, man, it really, like I used to kind of be, so when I was younger, I used to be, I mean, I didn't really obviously go to the doctor that often. So when I was younger, I'd generally go to the doctor if it was, like as a kid, only if there was like something broken or some kind of like an eye surgery when I was a young kid. Um, but I really didn't go to the doctors too much at all. So, but I always thought like, hey, if something's wrong, that's where I want to go. And then then as I got like older, getting healthier, like just more focused and intentional with like, my nutrition, my health, got into like working out, fitness, and all that stuff. It was all when they basically I got blood work, felt amazing. I was training a lot, great shape. Um, definitely definitely frying my adrenals. I was training a shitload. I was young. It was in my like mid-20s, but training a lot, and just burning, like just always moving, a lot of output, high intensity stuff. And I remember getting the blood work that year, and this is at like kind of like that peak. And that at that point I was like, that's when I was dropping way down from I used to weigh like 240 and
Jeez.
starting to cut out some of that. I didn't like care about like being big and like strong anymore like that. So I started
You
cutting
were
down
240?
240, yeah, 240,
Jeez.
and so I started cutting things down. So my output was crazy, and I remember going to the doctor and doing the blood work, and it came out, which at the time, from that point to like now, it's like it's so many people have this same, even dogs have the same thing. And I'm just like, I did my own kind of looking into it, and I have my own theories and stuff around why it popped up all of a sudden in a sense. But the doctor goes to me, oh, have you been tired? And mind you, I love this lady too. She's awesome. She's very nice. But she's like, are you tired? Are you fatigued? Or I'm just like, it's an interesting question because like, I don't know, like when are you asking me? Like right now I feel great. At
Yeah.
nighttime I get tired, but like nothing I train a lot. Like it's not preventing me from look how active I am type of thing. And
Yeah.
then it's like, okay, um, well, your blood work came back and you have underactive thyroid. You have hypothyroidism or Hashimoto's, right?
Okay.
And I'm like, huh, what is that? I had no clue at the time, right? I'm like, oh, it's like an autoimmune disease of your thyroid, blah, blah, blah. She's like, but don't worry. It's like very like just low. So it's like we caught it early. Caught it early, meaning like we're going to start you out at the lowest dose there is of Synthroid. So, to get your thyroid producing and stuff like that. So we'll give you the lowest dose, and you should be good. And then we'll retest you just to make sure it kind of stays there. So we'll kind of regulate it. And I was like, all right. And I'm kind of like sitting there like, what? And then she's like, you got to take it for the rest of your life though. So I was like, what? So initially I got the prescription. I started taking it, and I started thinking, and then I took it for like a month. And then in the very beginning, I went in, retested, and then so she tested me like more frequently in the beginning. And right when she retested me, she's like, "Oh, we gotta up it." So it was like 25 micrograms, and then she like increased it to like 50. She's like, "Oh, we gotta increase it now because it just wasn't leveling out or something." So I started like looking because I was like, I'm not accepting this, right, kind of thing. So I started basically, long story short, looking into things myself and doing my own kind of research and just kind of, checking a lot of like natural holistic modalities to,
Hmm.
from Eastern to Western, both, right? So from taking a medication for the rest of my life or taking supplements and things like selenium, doing things like that, resting, allowing my adrenals to recover, things like that. So I started to be that was a switch for me to be way more mindful of my health. And then I was healthy then for the most part, but I was also young and I was just
Yeah.
going hard. So I was, I kind of switched it a little bit more to a holistic kind of approach. But all in all, that's what kind of opened my eyes up to that whole thing of okay, I'm a young kid. I was in great shape. I think there's got to be a way. There's got to be a reason why this happened, and the fact that they couldn't answer it's just a thing that you got to deal with in a sense,
Yeah.
right? They're not. So
Crazy.
that was never acceptable for me, and that just made me ask the question why until I was able to again. I don't know exactly what, but from my own kind of research and deep diving into things, and then using blood testing and supplementing with selenium and doing cleanses, naturally I was able to get my blood work fine. And I never you see, I train, so it's energy wise, things like that. It hasn't slowed me down or anything like that. And that was from 20s to 40s. So it's I don't want to just be taking something, right? It just opened my eyes to hey, they just won't look at help me, look into this. I'm young, that's kind of my mindset. I was I'm young. You're just gonna let's figure this out. What do you mean? An old person, you just give them medicine and tell them I'm young, I could be fixed, kind of thing. So I was kind of shocked.
But then they're not making money off that, so it doesn't count.
Exactly.
But all right, let's hear your philosophical take for today.
All right, man. So the philosophical take today kind of goes along the lines of our last interview with Tyler. And then, so this is going to be from the Daily Stoic. So it's going to be some more Stoic philosophy. This is from Seneca in the Moral Letters. And I'll read the quote and then I'll give you the context around it. So the quote goes, "We must give up many things to which we are addicted, considering them to be good. Otherwise, courage will vanish, which should continually test itself. Greatness of the soul will be lost, which can't stand out unless it disdains as petty what the mob regards as most desirable." So, and then the label of this is "Sing Our Addictions." That's the label of the headline of the quote. And the context around it says, "What we consider to be harmless indulgences can easily become full-blown addictions. We start with coffee in the morning, and soon enough we can't start the day without it. We check our email because it's part of our job, and soon enough we feel the phantom buzz of our phone in our pocket every few seconds. Soon enough, these harmless habits are running our lives. The little compulsions and drives we have not only chip away at our freedom of sovereignty, they cloud our clarity. We think we are in control, but are we really? As one addict put it, addiction is when we have lost the freedom to abstain. Let us reclaim that freedom. What that addiction is for you can vary. It could be soda, drugs, complaining, gossip, social media, internet, biting your nails. But you must reclaim the ability to abstain because within it is your clarity and your self-control."
Yeah.
So that's a big reason why these Sober October, fasting has been such a great thing for people to experiment with and experience themselves. There's I did it 3 months in a row. It was really nice. I should kind of revisit something like it too. It's I forgot what it was labeled. It was part of the Go Ruck thing though. So it was a fast for 7 days in the beginning of the month from social media, internet, TV, and all you just read, kind of be present with people around you, read, go outside. You can use internet for work if you have to, obviously, for work. But then just outside of that, it's just fasting from it and not checking in. And for me, I remember going into it, I was I really don't have an addiction to some of these social media and these things anyway. But it's just funny because I don't really. It's like I don't like social media is not super important to me. Like I can see its issues and I can see the benefits from it, but I'm not
Mhm.
like I don't really care that much to about things that social media draws people in with.
Yeah.
But the thing that I noticed is like, okay, so for me, I was like, yeah, social media is going to be easy. Oh, fuck it, I can definitely not. But it's just the habit of even, it's like your finger. You pick up the phone, and like when you unlock your phone, like you go, even if you're in there for like a second, you know what I'm saying? Like I might
Yeah.
open Instagram and kind of like scroll a little bit and then get out and then do something and then kind of like go back in later and get, so it's like the habit of that movement and like checking it. It's weird. So I
Yeah.
noticed that for me. I was like, okay, even though I'm not like craving it, it's like a little habit in a sense that I was able to like notice and kind of free up. But then after the 7 days, it is really nice, especially at the time we were doing it. That was kind of in the height of a lot of of COVID and just a lot of things, where a lot of narratives, a lot of news was draining.
Mhm.
And so it was just really nice just to like, even from my mindset of like trying to figure things out on both sides, trying whatever, just being engrossed in things, just really stepping back and not hearing anything on anything, right? Like just stop looking at things, stop being online, stop being in, um, just in things and just be present with human beings that are around you, and then go read a book. And it was really
Yeah.
nice.
Oh, that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, challenge for all those fans out there is figure out what your addictions are and see if you can do something about that. So, what was that definition there? An addiction is something where you like can't do
Oh,
anything about it.
when we have lost the freedom to abstain.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah. So, figure out what those are and see if those are productive things for you, and you know, go from there. Try that. Try the abstinence.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. Appreciate it, Mike.
All right. Have a good night, guys.